Welcome to This Just In with this JustIN, JustIN Corr. This is a show where we take a deeper dive into the stories that are really important to you with the people who bring you those stories and learn a little bit more about those people as well. Joining me today in the 7 Plus studio, the man of might, named for the city of light, it's Joe Parris, everybody. Woo, Parris.
Do you have a live studio audience audio?
You're looking at it, buddy. Okay. This guy right here.
So there will not be a lot of sound effects on this show.
Only from me, and I'm going to bring a lot of them.
Okay.
Boo. Boo. See?
Are you booing yourself? Or
are
they saying news?
We're still news. Joe. Yes. Joe, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
You are going to be a father soon.
I am going to be a father. You and I have talked about this at length.
You have a very positive outlook on it. You're like, this is going to be great. It is going to be great.
Yeah.
But I want to impart on you that it's not going to be easy. This is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done.
And I just don't agree with that. Here's the thing.
What? What's been harder?
I mean, it's not necessarily that something's harder, but everyone talks to my wife and I like, this is something that's happening to us. Like, oh no, you're having I was like, we chose to do this. I know what I'm in for. People, oh, well, you're not going to sleep and you have to change diapers and the kid's going to make a mess. It's like, yeah, I talked about this with my wife. Like, I understood where we were going with this. This wasn't a surprise to us. Like, oh my gosh, you have to change the kid's diaper?
That you're not like leasing a car where it's after a few years. It's
right.
like, nah.
Right.
This isn't working for us, brother. No, first off, I love that you have a positive attitude about it.
Thank you.
And you are right. A lot of people have been fathers before this.
At least like 4 billion.
Plenty. You're looking at one of those.
Just one of the 4 billion.
But like, I just want to let you know.
Sure.
That while, again, I love that you're excited about it, but it's just going to be more than you realize. It's like the diapers are going to be worse than you realize, and there's going to be more of them. And the sleep deprivation is going to be worse and more than you realize. Yeah. And then also the drama at school, oh my gosh.
Oh, I'm here for that. That's exciting. There's nothing. I also took an 8-hour class at St. Luke's.
Oh.
I feel like I could probably deliver, and I shouldn't, but they go step through step on how everything happens with delivering a baby and all the things you need to do. It's supposed to be like a 5-week class, and we did it in one day. So
nice. Good for you.
I just felt like that class, I know everything I need to know. There was stuff I learned. I'm not going to pretend I'm a genius and I'm set to be father of the generation, but I appreciate the concerns in the words of comfort from people like yourself. And I will be calling you in the middle of the night for advice.
Joe. If you ever need advice, support, or anything like that, you have Brian Holmes' number, right?
Do you want me to call Brian?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay,
yeah,
I'll call Brian.
I'll chat with you when I come in the morning.
No, I was going to say, when I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'll just call you. You'll be at your desk. I'm like, Justin.
Actually will be.
Justin, he keeps going to the bathroom. What should I do?
He'll be like, well, it's probably all the feeding him you're doing, but don't stop feeding him.
Also, I have a dog. He's going to help.
He might, yeah.
He doesn't have thumbs.
If we learned anything from Peter Pan, dogs make great nannies. All right, enough about this. Prop 1, Joe.
Yeah.
That is going to be on everybody's ballot come November if you're voting in Idaho.
You should be voting.
And you should be voting, for crying out loud. There's a lot of stuff on the ballot this year, not just the presidential race. What is Prop 1?
Proposition 1 is a citizen ballot initiative in the group Idahoans for Open Primaries. Had a signature campaign and they qualified for the ballot. And their pitch to Idaho voters, their question for Idaho voters, should we overhaul the way elections work in the state of Idaho right now? It's kind of like a two-pronged suggestion here. By the way, this will be on every Idahoan's ballot, so everybody gets a vote on this if you're a registered voter in the state of Idaho. The question, though, is would you like to open up the primaries?
Okay.
And then part 2 would be we would have open primaries, and then the general election would basically be a ranked choice format or instant runoff.
Gotcha. And that's an important point. There are really 2 parts to Prop 1. So let's start with opening up the primaries. What does that mean, and why do we have closed primaries?
So in the state of Idaho, if you look at Idaho code for the most part, you will go back to the year 1970, and that's when primaries were put into Idaho code. At the time, there wasn't a provision for a closed primary, meaning you didn't have to be affiliated with a party to be a part of their primary.
So go ahead.
Years went by, and in the year 2007, the Idaho GOP, some leaders in the central committees, they came together for this idea that if you wanted to be voting in the Republican primary, an election which, by the way, it decides a lot of elections. With such a heavily Republican state of Idaho, the Republican primary has a lot of power. If Republicans are going to win in the general election, just based on the demographic here, whoever wins the primary likely will win.
Their biggest competition is in that primary.
Right.
And for years, decades even, and especially sort of in those early 2000s, there were a lot of Democrats
or unaffiliated voters
who voted in the Republican primary just so that they could have a voice in who was going to be the next leaders of the state. It absolutely happened. I know some people who did that. I was just talking to them recently, and they're like, I wonder if I'm still a registered Republican. But back in 2011, Republicans were like, no, we should be able to decide our own primary.
So 2007, some action was taken from the Idaho GOP, and there was court challenges. There was a few laws passed. At the end of the day, in 2011, at the time, Governor Butch Otter, he signed a law that closed basically, it gave the option for the parties to close their primaries, which the Idaho Republican Party chose to do. The Democratic Party, by the way, they've had the option to do this since 2011, and then the first election being 2012. The Democrats leave their primary open. So for whatever reason you're a registered Republican, you could go vote in the Democratic primary. And to be very clear here, by the way, even in the closed primary format or the open primary format, you're only allowed to vote in one primary.
Gotcha.
So this wasn't a situation where you had Democratic voters in the 2000s going to vote in the Republican primary, and then they would also vote in the Democratic primary. You only got one vote. So anyways, long story short here, in 2012, the Idaho Republican Party ran their first closed primary. And if you heard from Republican leaders at the time, not all of them, but the ones that were pushing for this change, they would say, we think you should be affiliated as a Republican if you want to vote in the Republican races. The talking point in 2024 is very similar. Idaho GOP Chair Dorothy Moon basically gave the analogy of if you're Boise State, you wouldn't let BYU decide who your starting quarterback is. So whether you agree with that principle or that analogy or not, that's your choice. But that's kind of what their talking point is at this point.
Yeah. And on the other side, the Democratic talking point, and you've seen, I imagine, probably plenty of ads about this.
Sure.
It's like, well, hold on. Like, everybody's paying taxes, and yet I don't even have a say, really, in who is going to run, these individual districts or even like these statewide positions, because it is a supermajority on the Republican side. So you can see both sides. You can also see how it's divided along party lines there. You can imagine that the Republicans are like, well, hold on, this is how we sort of retain control of our party and our people that were running for these positions. And Democrats say, well, no, their whole idea is to try to elect more moderate Republicans, you could say.
And so if you're a Republican and you want to protect your establishment and you want to protect what you believe in, and that is Republicans should be voting for Republicans, then you can understand that perspective. The other thing I do want to put out there was action or attempted action in recent years by the Idaho GOP to basically say if you want to affiliate to register as a Republican in Idaho, you have to be registered by this date and you have to be registered as this long. After some consideration and some legal opinions, that turned out to not be legal. So as the situation is right now, let me take a step back. The Secretary of State cannot enforce party rules as law. So they passed some party rules at the Idaho Republican Central Committee meetings. The party rules say to be a Republican, you have to do X, Y, and Z. The Secretary of State can't enforce that. He can only enforce, he or she, right now it is a he because Phil McGrain. He,
also a Republican,
can only enforce state law. So anybody can register to be a Republican. And so this opportunity is there for anyone who chooses to affiliate as a Republican and participate in the closed primaries. So I know there's been some questions and confusion about this in our community saying, oh, well, what are the requirements to be a Republican? As long as you're registered by the official dates that would precede a primary election, or you could even affiliate day of if you're unaffiliated. Anybody was allowed to get into the Republican primary by registering as a Republican. You do understand, though, there are people in the community that don't want to do that.
Now, I think that we've perfectly explained that, and I doubt that there is going to be any confusion or questions about opening up the primaries.
Yeah.
You're such an incredible storyteller
Thank
and
you.
journalist and newsman.
I know.
Although you're not fully prepared to be a father. Nothing can prepare you. But the other part of Prop 1, ranked choice voting. Recently
Yes.
on the 208,
Yes.
one of the most favored and hated and hate-watched shows in the area, the 208. Y'all showed everyone how that works. Let's see that piece, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
It's Election Day at KTVB,
Polls are open.
where all of our employees
So I just have to see their ID and then I give them a ballot?
have been invited to participate
I don't have my ID, but I will.
Wow, okay, you're gonna have to sign an affidavit.
in a very serious experiment
5 choices in each.
of ranked choice voting.
You pick 1 through 5.
Our ballots consist of 5 candidates in 2 separate races.
Bubble it in like a regular election.
Thank you, Rachel.
Return the ballot to the box.
Lisa has voted.
Ranked choice voting
Instead of just selecting one candidate that you prefer over all the others, you are ranking them.
is a component of Proposition 1,
You're just gonna rank them 1 through 5 for both?
a voter initiative on Idaho's statewide ballot this November that would also open up the primaries and change the way we vote in the general election.
So you're selecting your most preferred candidate first, your next most preferred candidate second, and so on and so forth until you don't feel like including any more candidates, or you can rank all of them if you really want to.
To show how it would work, our voters
Bradley has voted.
are deciding on what to drink
1 is your favorite, 5 is your least favorite.
and what to eat for lunch.
I'm going for tacos. Am I allowed to tell you that?
All right, Mark has voted.
And after 30 minutes,
We had pretty good turnout, I think.
Pop them in here.
we had better
Jason has voted.
than 40% participation
Thank you.
and 80 ballots to tally. First,
1 for pizza.
we counted all the first choice votes.
1 for tacos.
Tacos took an early lead
Another for tacos. Another for tacos.
over hamburgers, salad,
Pizza. Tacos.
and sandwich.
Sandwich.
Meanwhile, water
Water. Water. Water.
was the immediate frontrunner
Water.
for drinks.
Water. 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 A lot of boring people.
That was over Pepsi, 7-Up, and 3 others.
Dr. Pepper. Water. Coca-Cola. 1 7-Up.
Even though H2O
18, 19, and 20.
That's what we got.
was way ahead, it was 1 vote shy of the 50% plus 1 it needed to win.
If you've got
So,
third-party
we asked Dr. Charles Hunt,
Are you familiar with ranked choice voting?
quite.
a Boise State political scientist who teaches ranked choice voting to college kids,
It's a fairly popular reform right now, and so yeah, I try to keep up on how it's going in other places.
to help us figure out a favorite.
People say this is confusing if you had more than, say, 5.
If you've got like 30 candidates on there, right, then sure, that could get confusing. Probably most people are not going to be ranking all 30. Is it confusing with 4? I don't think it has to be that confusing, and research has shown that voters get used to this. They learn about it pretty quickly, and the confusion doesn't tend to linger for too long.
To go from 5 candidates to 1 winner with a simple majority, it's a simple system.
So the tally.
First step,
we take the last
look
place,
to who finished last.
which would be 7-Up,
Okay, so what do we got for
and
seven?
we throw that one out and we take their second choice
Yes.
and give it to somebody else.
Yeah. So who did our 7-Up? Our
7-Up's second choice was Coca-Cola. So if you want to mark down to
So
Coca-Cola,
let's do that. So we'll add a vote here for.
Do we cross 7-Up out?
And we can. They're out of the running.
They're out of the running.
Still not a predominant winner.
Okay. So now, what do we do?
We got to go to our next lowest. So Pepsi now is the lowest vote getter. We already know they're going to be out of the running, but we got to look at these 4 votes to see who their second choice votes were.
This one would be, second choice would be Dr. Pepper.
Okay.
Okay. This one, second choice is water.
So that's going to be it.
Dr. Hunt says it's common for the early favorite to eventually wind up winning.
So now let's do food, lunches.
While tacos look like it would easily take the win, it only got 16 first choice votes. So, following the same process of eliminating the lowest vote getter,
Salad.
Yeah, we got to stay healthy other ways, I guess.
Not a lot of salad lovers here. Okay.
and looking at the salad lover's second choice, tacos got 2 more, and sandwiches got 1. But still not enough to push either one over the top, which brings us to the next lowest. 5 first-choice votes for hamburger puts 2 more toward pizza and 3 more in tacos total.
Second choice, tacos.
That's it.
That's it.
We finally have a winner.
We can keep counting if we want, but now, like we did with water before, now tacos is past that 50% threshold. Doesn't matter what the rest of the votes say at this point.
Tacos and water. What most KTVB voters wanted in the first place, or second.
Like ranked choice voting is designed to produce a winner that has majority support, right? In some fashion through either first place votes or second or third place votes.
Sierra has voted.
You have a clearer and more nuanced way of reflecting your preferences.
And thank you for voting, sir.
Tacos and water.
What a
Tacos and water.
What a healthy group.
I mean, I guessed tacos not known for their health. Water just great.
What do you mean tacos not known for their health? You can get all the food groups
Oh
in there.
no! I'm gonna get okay.
You want to talk politics, brother?
Yeah, we don't have time for that. That'll be part of a five show series coming up. Also, it doesn't hurt me at all the fact that you didn't use any video or sound bites from me. I voted in there. I also voted for water. Don't ask me why.
Why did you vote for water?
It's
I feel
you
like
need it to live.
people don't like soda anymore, which I get. I voted for Coca-Cola.
Not the healthiest thing in the world. So about that exercise, is that the perfect example of ranked choice voting?
It's a good example. There are a few things that we probably should clarify. For example, when you get, there was 2 ballots that was put out, for example. Okay. Everything would be on one ballot. There wouldn't be separate ballots. So that, I know some people get confused about multiple pieces of paper. One ballot.
Okay.
Second, there was a question or there was conversation coming out of that from some people when they saw it about not ranking the candidates. Do you have to rank them 1 through 4 as would be in the proposed format? And the answer is no, you don't have to rank them. If you, for whatever reason, wanted to just vote for your first choice and not rank the remaining, that's your choice. You don't have to rank them. Would your vote be more meaningful if you ranked it? Probably.
Yeah.
But if you have one candidate that you like and the other 3 you do not like and you are not okay with them and you don't want to put them at number 2 or whatever, you don't have to.
Yeah. Is that a worry, though, that you have potentially, votes or ballots that technically aren't counted or really kind of don't make a difference in this?
So everyone's ballot is treated and counted the same, but there are fair criticisms of the format. The idea from the proponents of ranked choice voting, and that's not just in Idaho, across the country there is a push to do this in certain communities. The proponents of ranked choice voting will tell you that it produces less extreme candidates. Meaning, in a place like Idaho, if you are supporting ranked choice voting, what you're likely supporting is the idea of a certain type of politician that you would like to see. Research from the ranked choice voting advocates show that less extreme candidates are the result of propositions like Proposition 1 in the sense that you'll have a group of voters who say, okay, well, my first choice may be, candidate A, but I would be okay with candidate B. Right. I don't like candidate C and D, but candidate B I would be okay with. So it's almost like a compromise that you're taking through a tally of votes.
And we have seen primaries in this state before where you have a number of candidates in the primary, say like 2 or 3 of them are pretty similar.
Yeah.
And so you have kind of the same voting base, the same voters who have the same idea about their ideology that all vote for those 3 and they all split those votes. And then you have that 4th candidate who is more extreme and they manage to win with like 30% of
with a
the
split vote. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the way it would also work in Idaho, by the way, is in the primary, it's an open primary. It's an open ballot. So for each race, you could have whatever amount of candidates. The top 4, regardless of their party, go on to that ranked choice final. So you could ostensibly have 4 Republicans. You could have 4 Democrats. You could have 3 Republicans and a Democrat. So there's a lot of math that could be involved in terms of like paths to victory. But you can start to see how it is almost, a compromise vote for some situations. Yeah. Oftentimes, though, the candidate that does have the early lead, as you heard Dr. Hunt from Boise State say, this isn't a situation where you're stealing the votes and all of a sudden like, oh, he was winning and now he's not winning at all.
Yeah.
So oftentimes, whoever was leading out in front does end up winning, but there is math involved. If you had everybody who voted for candidate 3 and 4 and candidate 2, and they all agree like, well, we want candidate 2 over candidate 1, that would be a community major support of a candidate. So there you go.
You also see how it might discourage people from voting in the other party's primary. They're like, well, I want to make sure my person, my candidate, gets to the general election. So I got to put my support behind them right off the bat. You get them those votes.
The open primary makes it more about candidates instead of the party.
Yeah.
Is one way to read it.
Is there a mathematical possibility of this not deciding an election if someone doesn't rank all of the candidates and like if someone doesn't get 50% plus 1?
Slim chance. I mean, mathematically, it would be slim depending on how big of a race it is. How many? Right. I mean, if you had 5 people voting in a race, it'd be different. Well, you would have to have an even amount of money or even amount of numbers. You'd have to have 6 to have a tie, 3-3, whatever. Right. I mean, yes, the answer to your question is yes. There could be ties, and there are mechanisms to break ties, but as is in the current format, it is very unlikely.
Gotcha. And then it would be up to the municipality or wherever that election is if they require 50% plus 1.
Correct.
To win it. Okay. So we've taken more than 20 minutes trying to explain all this thing and talking a little bit about fatherhood.
Yeah.
Is this still, you think, confusing for people?
That's the thing, is this is a subjective opinion, and I've explained the entire proposition to some people and it clicks quickly. Yeah. For other people, it is different and it takes a little more explaining. People observe and take in information differently. You have visual learners, you have auditory learners, you have hands-on learners. So depending on how someone would perceive this on the ballot, it may be more confusing for some people than others. At the end of the day, the research shows that where ranked choice voting did start in municipalities outside of Idaho, there is a learning curve, but voters do pick up pretty quickly. I think one of the funny examples I was given from a colleague was you have a lot of folks that are into fantasy football. And the first time you get into fantasy football, there might be some intricacy and there might be some things you don't pick up. But as you continue to play the game, when you start seeing how it works out for most people, it's easy to identify. Again, though, is it confusing? That's going to be up to each individual voter. And I think that's why we're doing shows like this, so we can explain all the information. To be clear, we are not in support or against ranked choice voting or the open primary. We are just trying to explain to the community what the ins and outs of it are, because, to be honest, the last probably 8 to 12 weeks, this is the number one question that I get in my inbox and that the 208 gets as well.
And this, I think, is going to be 100% the most hotly contested race question thing on the ballot in Idaho.
In terms of something that's on everyone's ballot, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to work inside politics a little bit.
Why?
You'd say on some campaigns. Well, because they wouldn't hire me here yet, but eventually they came around.
Okay.
So we always said that if someone gets a ballot and they're confused by a proposition, they're going to vote no because they don't want to accidentally pass something that's damaging. Sort of the old idea of do no harm.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the case? And as you've been talking to people on sort of both sides of this, is that what they're saying?
I have proponents of ranked choice voting that tell me that they feel like there's a good chance it passes, in the sense that they have heard from Idahoans that they want this open primary.
Okay.
It's interesting, depending on who you talk to, what they think Proposition 1 is. For example, we did an ad check on Proposition 1, and they talk a lot about the open primary and giving voting rights to all Idahoans. In the specific commercial that we fact-checked, ranked choice voting didn't come up at all. And each individual voter is going to do their own research. So it's hard for me to gauge who fully understands exactly what's going on. I think most people in the politics world get it at this point. But you're going to have people showing up at the polls that have never seen it, ever.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of those exist, but it'll be interesting. I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah. I think you see more of a preponderance, though, also of people voting early, doing absentee, mail-in ballots. Those people will be voting at their own kitchen table, and they'll be able to look up all that information,
Right.
kind of figure it out.
And the Idahoans for open primaries, who are the proponents of this, they've spent, you could look at the Secretary of State's website, they've spent a lot of money getting out there and trying to get their messaging and trying to explain this to the community.
Yeah.
On the other side of the aisle, you do have the anti-Prop 1 folks that have also spent a lot of money. And I don't understand sometimes if money necessarily means whoever has more money is going to win the issue. A lot of time in candidate races, you can kind of glean some information out. But on an issue like this, there's not a lot of polling available.
Right.
I don't know. I have a gut feeling. I have a gut feeling that it will be competitive.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah. And again, this is coming from someone who used to be an insider. The way I always saw it, you don't. It's not the person with more money who wins, but you do have to have money to give yourself a chance.
Yeah.
So it looks like both sides are spending money on this. Can we talk about cost?
Yeah, we can. So I interviewed the Secretary of State, Phil McGrain, about this because there was information floating around on social media and through the community about what this would or would not cost. The truth of the matter here is that if Idaho does pass this and Proposition 1 becomes law, the state of Idaho would have to invest in new election machines and technology because the current system in Idaho, the current vendor, their machines are not set up to calculate and tally this format. So it's difficult to know exactly how much it'll cost because there hasn't been a competitive bid put out there. The Secretary of State's office and other election officials in Idaho have worked their best to come up with an estimate between like $25 and $40 million. Would it essentially be one-time costs to get all the new machines in, to get all the new technology in, and then running the elections from year to year. That would be basically what it costs right now to run the elections. There are some intricacies, though, in the way that it would be tallied, and it would take a little more time. But again, at the end of the day, Idaho spends money on things all the time. As a voter, it is up to you to decide if you think investing millions of dollars to open up the primary and do ranked choice voting is worth it to you. When we talk about cost, it's not a criticism. It's just a fact. I think there were some folks that saw my report on how much this would cost, and to them it came off as, oh, well, you're against this. I am not for or against Proposition 1. I'm just telling you, when I interviewed the Secretary of State, here's what he says the costs associated with it are. And again, if you think it's worth it, you should vote for it. If you don't think it's worth it, don't vote for it. We spend money on all kinds of things. So I can't tell you if it's worth it or not.
It's literally up to the voter. Yeah, that's why we have these things. Can you talk about, I guess, the logistics? Is it necessary, do you think, just sort of from an objective logistics point of view, to have both the open primary and ranked choice voting as part of the same proposition? Could those have been separated?
So, and this is a great question. Why did they include both? Why did they?
Yeah.
And you'd have to ask Idahoans for open primaries. This
Right.
is just the format that they have pitched to voters. I don't know how it would work if you did an open primary and then just a regular general election, or that would be an open primary. A suggestion that I've been given from community members is we would have liked to see an open primary and then the top 2 or the top 4 go on to a standard general election format where whoever gets the most votes wins. That is something that could have been done. The group behind this just decided not to. The ranked choice voting aspect of it is something that, again, proponents of it say produces less extreme candidates. So that's another reason that these folks are pitching it, because they identify a problem that they see in politics of extreme candidates in Idaho. So that's what they're trying to address. If this were to fail, I don't know if we would see it brought up again with a different pitch to voters. We'll see.
We will see indeed. Election day, November 5th.
Yeah.
Get out there. Get voting.
Remember the 5th of November.
Okay. Let's not push that, V for Vendetta. So we got...
That's what that's from.
That is from that, yeah.
Great movie.
Yikes.
It's a movie.
It is, yeah. It's also about a real holiday celebrated over in the UK.
Guy Fawkes Day.
Guy Fawkes Day. Thank you. Yeah, we don't have time to talk about that. Maybe next time. But seriously, get next time on this Just In. But get out there and vote. You can vote early, actually, right now.
Right now, if you want.
In Ada County. So, yeah, get out there.
If you have your absentee ballot, it's all right that you haven't sent it back in yet, but get it back to your county clerk. No reason to wait.
And there's a lot of stuff on your ballot to vote for, not just this, Prop 1, but
There's a
candidates.
constitutional question about should non-citizens be able to vote. We'll have to do a second episode on that. But yeah, every seat in the Idaho legislature is up, so there are big votes to be had in your community.
And I hear there are 2 people running for, I want to say, president of the United States. I haven't heard of that either.
Haven't heard of it. No.
You've been neck deep in Prop 1, buddy.
Haven't heard of it.
Joe, thank you. And thank you for watching. Here I am. This Just In with JustIN.